300 কত 57 একজন আইতো আমার যখন একটা ভিডিও আমার চ্যানেলে তো 3000 4000 হয়ে গেল না শর্ট ভিডিও তখন এর উপর আমরা দিই বুঝলে এটা ভিউজের উপরে প্রোগ্রাম ছিল Hello viewers, this is a very showering evening here. It was showering was started from the afternoon and it is continued till now, and I don't know how long it will continue, but it will be finished soon. But this showering and rainy evening, it looks like how beautiful you can see here. So watch this scenario and enjoy our natural calamities and natural beauties. Thank you everybody, thank you. Watch the natural calamities, natural scenario, and how it is looks like in a rainy evening. You can see here the rain is almost finished, and now the vehicles are running to and fro to the market, shopping mall, Gateway Center, mega shopping mall. Vehicles are coming, private cars are coming and going to and fro. So everybody watch this beautiful scenario. The sky is now almost clear and no rain within 5-6 hours. So you can see the real scenario of our natural environment. Thank you everybody to join with me and watching my live. Thank you. Please don't forget to comment, share and subscribe my channel. Everybody, I am very grateful to you if you subscribe my channel, comment and share and like. Thank you everybody. Watch continue. Thank you. I am with you and I will talk to you after a few minutes break. Thank you. আমি এখন I am speaking in my own language, own mother tongue. So stay with me. আসলে যেহেতু আমার বেশিরভাগ ফলোয়ারই হচ্ছেন, সাবস্ক্রাইবারই হচ্ছেন নন বেঙ্গলি। সো আমাকে নন বেঙ্গলি ইংলিশে কথা বলতে হয়। কিন্তু এখন আমি একটু বাংলায় বলার চেষ্টা করবো, এই জন্য যে আসলে বাংলা হচ্ছে আমাদের মাতৃভাষা, এবং মাতৃভাষায় কথা বলা যত সহজ, অন্য ভাষায় কথা বলা অতটা সহজ নয়, বা আমরা অভ্যস্তও নই। সে যাই হোক, আমি বাঙালি ভাইদের উদ্দেশ্যে বলছি যে যেখানে আছেন, যেখানে থাকুন, বাংলাদেশে থাকুন না ইন্ডিয়ায় থাকুন বা পৃথিবীর যে প্রান্তেই বাঙালিরা আছেন, সবাই আশা করি আপনারা এই মুহূর্তে আমার লাইভে জয়েন করবেন এবং আপনারা আমাকে সহযোগিতা করবেন এবং আমার লাইভে সবসময় আপনারা আমাকে উৎসাহিত করবেন, প্রয়োজনীয় পরামর্শ দেবেন, এই প্রত্যাশা আমি রাখছি। আমার আজকে সন্ধ্যায় সারাদিন, বিকেল থেকে দুপুরের পর থেকে সারাদিন বৃষ্টি হলো, হালকা বৃষ্টি। অবশ্য বাংলাদেশের মতো অত ঝড়ো বেগের বৃষ্টি হয়নি, কিন্তু খুব হালকা গতিতে যে বৃষ্টি হলো, এই বৃষ্টিটাও অনেকক্ষণ যাবৎ আমাদেরকে ঘরবদ্ধ করে রাখলো। মানে আমি ঘর থেকে বের হতে পারি নাই। অবশ্য আজকে আমার কাজও ছিল না, যে কারণে আমি ঘর থেকে বের হওয়ার খুব একটা প্রয়োজনও পড়ে নাই। তো ঘরে বসে বসেই জানালা থেকেই বৃষ্টি স্নাত বিকাল এবং সন্ধ্যা আমি উপভোগ করলাম, এবং আপনাদেরকেও সেটা দেখানোর চেষ্টা করেছিলাম একবার। কিন্তু যখন বৃষ্টি আগের মুহূর্ত ছিল সেটি, তো বৃষ্টির মুহূর্তটা আপনাদেরকে তেমন দেখাতে পারি নাই। যখন আমি প্ল্যান করলাম যে আপনাদেরকে আমি বৃষ্টির মুহূর্তটি দেখাবো, তখন দেখি বৃষ্টি এখন শেষ। কিন্তু আবহাওয়া, বাসার বাইরের অবস্থা দেখলে আপনারা বুঝতে পারছেন এখন আর বৃষ্টি নেই, কিন্তু আকাশ অত্যন্ত পরিচ্ছন্ন। তো যে কথাটা আমি বলতে চাচ্ছিলাম সেটা আর বলার সুযোগ হলো না। যেমন একটা ছোটবেলায় একটা প্রমোচনের একটা কথা ছিল, সেই কথাটা ছিল রবীন্দ্রনাথের কথা বোধ হয় লিখেছিলেন প্রমোচনটি, এমন দিনে তারে বলা যায় এমন ঘনঘোর বরিশালে। সেই ঘনঘোর বর্ষার মধ্যে বাংলার যে সিনারিও, সেটা অত্যন্ত আনন্দদায়ক এবং অনেক সময় বেদনাদায়ক হয়, যেহেতু চলাচল করতে কষ্ট হয়। মনে পড়ে সেই ছোটবেলার কথা, যখন আমরা গ্রামের প্রত্যন্ত গ্রাম অঞ্চলে বসবাস করতাম, তখন বৃষ্টির পরে বর্ষাকালে বৃষ্টি হলে আমাদের কাঁচা রাস্তাগুলো কর্দমাক্ত হয়ে যেত। তখন ওই রাস্তা দিয়ে হাঁটতে গেলে কোথাও পায়ে হাঁটু পরিমাণ পর্যন্ত কাদার মধ্যে আমরা ডুবে যেতাম। সেই অবস্থায় আমরা হেঁটে হেঁটে যেতে হতো বাজারে, এবং বাজার থেকে ফিরতে হতো অনেক কষ্ট। সেই আবার আষাঢ় মাসে বা বর্ষাকালে যখন প্রচন্ড বৃষ্টি নামতো, একদিন দুদিন নয়, 4-5 দিন 7 দিন 10 দিন পর্যন্ত টানা বৃষ্টি হতো, তখন ছাতা দিয়েও খুব কুলাইতো না, ছাতা মাথায় দিয়েও আপনি বৃষ্টি থেকে রেহাই পেতেন না। তখন গ্রামে একটা প্রচলিত ছাতার মতো একটা প্রোটেকশন ছিল, এটাকে বলা হতো জোংরা। ওই জোংরা মাথায় দিলে অনেকটা শরীরের পিঠের অংশ থেকে শুরু করে মাথা থেকে পিঠের অংশ পর্যন্ত ঢাকা পড়ে যেত, যার কারণে অনেকটা বৃষ্টি থেকে নিজেকে রক্ষা করা যেত। সেই সময়টা বানানো হতো এক ধরনের গাছের পাতা দিয়ে, আমার ঠিক মনে নাই কি যেন পাতা এটা ছিল, কিন্তু সেই জোংরা যখন মাথায় দিয়ে বিশেষ করে কৃষকরা তখন ধান খেতে যেত, ধান নিড়ানি দিতে হতো, তারপরে ময়লা পরিষ্কার করতে হতো, এইসব কারণে তাদেরকে জমিনে যেতে হতো, তখন তারা জোংরা মাথায় দিয়ে যেত। আবার মাঝে মাঝে অনেক সময় তারা বৃষ্টির মাঝে মাছ ধরতে যেত, জাল মারতে যেত, তখনও জোংরা পরে তারা জাল মারতে যেত। সেই যে বর্ষা, সেই ভীষণ বর্ষা, প্রচন্ড বৃষ্টির মধ্যে যে পরিবেশ, সেটাকেই প্রমথ বলেছিলেন এমন দিনে তারে বলা যায়, এমন দিনে তারে বলা যায় এমন ঘনঘোর বরিশাল। কি বলা যায় তিনি বলেননি, সেটা রবীন্দ্রনাথও বলেননি, প্রমথও বলেননি, রবীন্দ্রনাথও বলেননি, কিন্তু বলা যায় যে এমন ঘনঘোর বরিশাল। তা আমার এখানে এমন ঘনঘোর বরিশাল হয় নাই যে আপনাদেরকে আমি বলতে পারবো, কিন্তু এটা বলতে পারি যে এই অবস্থায় আমি কিন্তু গর্ববদ্ধ ছিলাম, সেই ছোটবেলার স্মৃতির মতো। ইচ্ছা করলে বের হওয়া যেত, কিন্তু বের হয়নি, যেহেতু আমার খুব একটা প্রয়োজন ছিল না। সেই যাই হোক, আপনারা এই যে সুন্দর একটা দৃশ্য, আপনাদেরকে আমি সেই মুহূর্তের দৃশ্যটা দেখাতে পারি নাই, এই জন্য আমি দুঃখিত। তবে দেখলে ভবিষ্যতে সুযোগ পেলে যদি এখন দীর্ঘ সময় ধরে বৃষ্টি হয়, তখন আমি একদিন আপনাদেরকে এই দৃশ্যটাও দেখাবো যে এখান থেকে বর্ষাকালটা দেখতে কেমন। যদিও এটা শহরে এলাকা, গ্রাম এলাকা না, এবং নিউ ইয়র্ক সিটি পৃথিবীর সবচেয়ে দামি এবং সবচেয়ে অনেকটা জনবহুল বলা যায় শহরগুলোর মধ্যে একটি। 1 নম্বরে টোকিও এবং নিউ ইয়র্কও কয়েকটা শহরের মধ্যে একটি, জনবহুল শহরের মধ্যে একটি। সে যাই হোক, সেই সিটিতে আমরা বসবাস করি। আমার এখানে আমি যে অঞ্চলে বসবাস করি এটি একেবারে আটলান্টিক মহাসাগরের কাছে। এখান থেকে কিছু দূর হেঁটে গেলেই আমি যিনি আটলান্টিক মহাসাগর দেখতে পাই, আমি দেখতে পাই, অন্যরাও যারা এখানে থাকে বসবাস করে তারাও দেখতে পায়। কাজেই এই যে সুযোগটা, এটা এই পরিবেশটা আমাদের ভাগ্য আমাদেরকে এখানে এনে দিয়েছে, যার কারণে আমরা উপভোগ করতে পারি। মাঝে মাঝে আমার এই যে শপিং মলটা আছে, শপিং মলের পরে একটা উঁচু জায়গা, পাহাড়ি এলাকার মতো পার্ক আছে, এটাকে বলা হয় শার্লি কৃষ্ণ পার্ক। এই শার্লি কৃষ্ণ পার্কের উপর দিয়ে উঠে গিয়ে আসলে ওখানে 2টো পিয়ার আছে। এই 2টো পিয়ার থেকে দাঁড়িয়ে আপনি সমুদ্রের সিনারিও, আটলান্টিক মহাসাগরের সিনারিও দেখতে পাবেন। সেই জন্য এই সৌভাগ্যটা আমাদের হয়। আমার যখন মনে চায় তখন আমি কিন্তু শার্লি কৃষ্ণ পার্কে চলে যাই, যেহেতু এটাতে যেতে কোনো টিকিট করা লাগে না, যে কোনো মুহূর্তে যে কোনো সময় ইচ্ছে করলে চলে যাওয়া যায়। সেই জন্যই আমি সেখানে যাই এবং সেই দৃশ্যটা উপভোগ করি। বিশেষ করে যখন সামার আসবে তখন শার্লি কৃষ্ণের যে পাখির ডাক, কিচিমিচি, অগণিত পাখি তখন সেখানে যায়, কিচমিচ করে। সেই দৃশ্যটি গত বছর আমি ভিডিও করে এনেছিলাম। ভিডিও করে যখন বাসায় আসলাম তখন আমার ওয়াইফ বলতেছে, এত পাখির আওয়াজ কেন? আমি বললাম যে লক্ষ লক্ষ পাখি ওখানে তখন সামারে চলে যায়। নিউ ইয়র্ক সিটি থেকে অন্য জায়গা থেকেও মনে হয় পাখিগুলো ওখানে চলে যায়, কারণ ওটা পাখির অভয়ারণ্যের মতো একটা জায়গা, যেখানে কেউ পাখিদেরকে কোনো ডিস্টার্ব করে না, তাদের ইচ্ছে মতো ঘুরে বেড়াতে পারে। সেই জন্য তারা ওখানে থাকে এবং চলে যায় সামার আসলে। সেই দৃশ্যটা আপনাদের দেখাবো এবং সেটা লাইভ করব। সেই লাইভ করলে আপনারা দেখতে পাবেন যে পাখিরা কেমন করে উঠছে, কেমন করে খাচ্ছে। সেখানে পাখি দেখতে পাবেন, রাজহাঁস দেখতে পাবেন, তারপরে সিগাল দেখতে পাবেন, এবং আমেরিকান ব্ল্যাক ডাক যাকে বলে সেটাও ওখানে দেখতে পাবেন অ্যাভেলেবল। বিশাল বিশাল বড় বড় সমুদ্রের মধ্যে তারা বসবাস করে। সমুদ্রের ওখানেই তারা ডিম পাড়ে, বাচ্চা ফোটে, সব এভরিথিং সমুদ্রের পাড়ে তারা করে ফেলে। এই যে সুন্দর একটা পরিবেশ, অপার প্রাকৃতিক সৌন্দর্য, সেটা আপনাদেরকে দেখাতে পারবো আশা করি যখন আমি শার্লি কৃষ্ণ স্টেট পার্কে যাব। এটা নিউ ইয়র্ক সিটির ব্রুকলিন শহরের আটলান্টিক মহাসাগরের পাশেই অবস্থিত, অর্থাৎ আমার বাসা থেকে অল্প একটু পথ। আমি হেঁটে যাই শার্লি কৃষ্ণ পার্কে, হেঁটে যেতে তো কত 15 মিনিটও লাগে না, হেঁটে গেলে 15 মিনিটও লাগে না আমার যেতে। অথবা আমি ইজিলি যে কোনো মুহূর্তে ইচ্ছে করলেই, সময় পেলে আমি আপনাদেরকে এটা দেখাতে পারবো। আরও কতগুলো জায়গা আপনাদেরকে দেখাবো আশা করছিলাম, প্ল্যান করছিলাম যাব। আর একটা প্ল্যান আছে যে সেন্ট্রাল পার্কে যাব আমি, এবং এটা এই মাসে পারবো না, সম্ভবত জুন মাসে চেষ্টা করব, জুনের মাঝামাঝি সময় যাব সেখানে স্টেট পার্কে। সেই স্টেট পার্কে গেলে সেখানকার নানান রকম বৈচিত্র্যময়, যেটাকে বলা হয় হ্যাবিটেটস, নানান রকম পশু পাখি, গাছপালা, অন্যরকম একটা পরিবেশ আপনাদেরকে সেটাও দেখাতে পারবো, এই প্রত্যাশা রাখছি। আপনারা এখন প্রাকৃতিক পরিবেশটা উপভোগ করুন, দেখতে থাকুন। একটু পরে আমি আবার আসবো, আবার কথা বলবো, হয়তোবা বাংলায় নয়, হয়তোবা অন্য ইংলিশে আমাকে বলতে হবে, আমার সাবস্ক্রাইবারদেরকে ধরে রাখার জন্য। থ্যাংক ইউ এভরিবডি, থ্যাংক ইউ all. See the scenery of the inner side of our building. See. Naturally decorated flower plant. This plant is known as gardenia plant. See, one flower is spreading out. This is mini rose plant. It looks like very big, but not big. It's mini, small. That's why its name is mini rose. This is marigold, orange color marigold. See, yellow color marigold also one you can see over there. And all these are orange color marigold. This is real. All these are real plant, real flower. This is not artificial. These are real flower. Everything is real. You see, this is a squash plant. This is also real. It will be a bigger one. And this is gardenia. Beautiful scent. Beautiful fragrance. Fragrance comes out of it. Nighttime, it's to smell is very, very attractive smell. A white flower, but scent is very, very nice. This is called gardenia in English. In Bangla, this is called gondoras. In Bangla, this is called gondoras. In English, it is known as gardenia. I don't know what is in Chinese language, another Filipino language, I don't know. But this is mini rose plant. So you can see this scenario also. These are natural plant, not artificial. Everything is natural plant. We buy it from the shopping mall. Thank you. See the outside of the house. See the road outside and road scenario of my residence. এখন ওই যে আমার কথা শেষ হয়ে গেলে আবার এখানে একটা হয়ে গেছে এভাবেই তো তারপর না বলে করতে থাকো একটা ফোন যেগুলো 이거 뭐 TV 전화가
turn our attention now to some main international news as we're learning more about the very near future. That's what the Israeli government is talking about, potential invasion of Rafah.
Commencement ceremony.
Oz, facts. And she's shopping for a used car, but she doesn't know that nearly half of them have been in an accident. Not with car.
Look here. The Hamas terror group firing rockets from Rafah at the Karim Shalom crossing used by trucks carrying aid over into Gaza. The Israel Defense Forces say the attack was fired from an area right near the Rafah crossing with Egypt, which is also used to facilitate aid to Gaza, and it was also a short distance away from civilian shelters. The IDF releasing video of the attack seen there, saying at least 10 people were injured. Israel has carried out strikes now in Rafah in response, including striking the launch sites. I want to talk about all of this and the latest developments there in the Middle East, so let's bring in Anya Corbin, a friend of the show, the Senior Director of the Israel Program at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Thank you so much, as always, for taking the time to be here with us.
Thank you so much, Josh. It's great to be here as always.
Of course. Well, first off, I do want to talk a little bit about this Hamas attack. A lot of details here are still unknown, but information is kind of slowly coming in. So overall, my question for you, what do we know so far about this, and what is the significance?
Sure. So the event was very significant and for many reasons, and I think we need to unpack a little bit of that. So let's go ahead. So let's start with the hostage negotiations because it plays into the timing. So there have not been successful hostage exchanges since last year. And for the past several months, Jerusalem and DC have been working with partners to try and bring more of the over 100 Israeli and 30 Israeli and some American hostages home from Gaza unsuccessfully. And during this period, while this intense diplomacy has been happening to try and bring the hostages home, DC has been pressuring Israel for two things: to surge aid into Gaza and to pull back on its military operations. And specifically, what DC means by pulling back the military operations was not going forward with an operation in Rafah. Rafah is the southernmost town in Gaza. It abuts the border with Egypt, and it is a critical military target for Israel because it houses the remainder of the Hamas military battalions. There are multiple intact battalions in Rafah. Military infrastructure is there. So the whole time in the past several months, the U.S. has been pressuring Israel not to move forward with the Rafah operations while these hostage negotiations were going on, which brings us to the present time. So Israel has the most comprehensive hostage package on the table. They presented it to Hamas last week. It is backed by the U.S. Secretary Blinken called it extraordinarily generous on the part of Israel. And Israel's been waiting on pins and needles to get a response from Hamas, hoping this might be it and this might bring more hostages home. However, this response by Hamas, this attack on the Kerem Shalom crossing, as you mentioned, that Hamas took credit for, that caused casualties on the Israeli side, happened while Israel is waiting for a response to these generous hostage offers. So the timing is significant. The rockets came from Rafah. They came from this town that Israel said that must go into to finally eliminate the Hamas military infrastructure that Biden has been pressuring Israel to leave. So that's where the rockets came from, and they hit the humanitarian crossing, which is where Israel lets in a huge portion of the humanitarian aid that relieves the suffering of the Gazan people. So Josh, you asked me what it means. What it means is Hamas has very little interest in coming to any kind of peaceful agreement with Israel, and that Hamas cares very little about civilians in Gaza.
And I want to talk about some of the other developments here because we did learn not too long ago here that Hezbollah has now fired dozens upon dozens of rockets over in northern Israel again today. And what a lot of people don't realize is this is kind of going on pretty much on a daily basis where you're having these rockets, these missiles that are fired from Hezbollah over into northern Israel.
Josh, I'm so glad you brought that up because I believe it is terribly underreported. The truth is that Israel has been under attack on its northern border for months. It has over 100,000 people who've been evacuated from their homes, from their businesses, from their farms in the north of the community. These are Israeli Jews, these are Druze, these are Muslims. All Muslim Israelis have been forced out of their homes and their communities for several months while Israel has been under pretty much constant attack. Another thing that is very underreported is since early this year, there have been more rockets coming in from Lebanon than there have from Gaza. So this is definitely a hot arena. This is definitely a low-grade but intense conflict going on there. And what is important for everyone to understand is that Hezbollah is a huge non-state actor. They are the most armed non-state actor in the world. They have 150,000 rockets in their arsenal, and they are a major strategic threat to Israel. So while Israel is prosecuting this war in Gaza and trying to get its hostages back and trying to finish the job there, it also has to keep its sights and its military and its personnel and its resources directed to the north where there is an even greater threat that is looming and that will eventually have to be dealt with.
There are reports that are circulating now, speaking more about a possible truce deal, a hostage release and ceasefire deal. There's reports that are starting to circulate that the U.S. had actually urged Israel to send a delegation there for those hostage talks. And it seems as though Netanyahu has kind of pushed back and said, not just yet, we'll see where things go. What does that tell you about the plan overall if Israel is to decide not to send a delegation?
So Israel wants these hostages back. It is very much an open wound in the Israeli psyche, and over 130 hostages remain in Israel. Israelis know that a lot of these people are dead. Israel's seen very little signs of life from these people, and it is an ongoing daily trauma in this country. I'm reporting from Israel right now. So by dragging these hostage negotiations out and constantly coming back to the table and perniciously releasing these videos of hostages, months and months at a time with nothing, and then releasing a video of a hostage underground, obviously under duress. It's psychological warfare, and Israelis recognize this, and the government recognizes this, and yet the desire to bring those people home continues to compel Israelis to go back into these negotiations. Now, as I said, it's been months without a result, and people are beginning to get the feeling here that this is theater. This has become a way for Hamas to stay in the headlines, which was always their goal. Early on in this war, Hamas leaders went on broadcast and said, people have forgotten about us. There's a war in Ukraine. The U.S. is focused in China. We want to be on the top of the global agenda. And this tactic, this psychological warfare, this stringing on into these endless negotiations not only keeps pressure on Israel to end the Gaza operation, it raises anti-Semitism, it creates these horrible protests that you see on these campuses, and it also torments Israelis. So it's a successful strategy by Hamas, and I think this time Netanyahu said we're not going to send a delegation until we understand that there's actually hope that this deal can happen.
And
Our smiles. They're pretty powerful. Each one is a story.
I want to talk a little bit more about about those protests here. This is actually video of one of many that have happened over the last several days, coming in Friday from Portland State University. As you can see, those clashes between law enforcement and some of the protesters there, the Gaza War protesters. Now, these protests that are happening, do they really, because they are against Israel, give Hamas any sort of, let's say, additional leverage in talks of a deal?
I would hope not, but I think that the truth is that, we're coming up on an election season, and these images are not what the Biden administration wants to have on the nightly news. This shows chaos. This shows a country that is out of control. This shows young people that are causing anarchy on our campuses. So I think that I don't know how much effect they have on the deals when the rubber hits the road, but I do know that this pressures the Biden administration. And I'll just say, I think they're short-sighted on the part of these campuses and these young people that are going out and doing this, because the vast majority of Americans look at these chaotic, these violent protests with disgust. And I think that the vast majority of Americans understand that this is a truly un-American scene playing out on our college campuses. And my bold prediction is that these will backfire. These are going to hurt Biden. And whether they have an effect on the deal when the rubber hits the road, I doubt it. But I do think that they are having a corrosive effect, and they are turning people against these movements.
And there are so many different topics to talk about, so we are kind of jumping around, but that's, the situation that's been playing out over the last several months. Israel giving Hamas an ultimatum, so to speak, when it comes to that Rafah offensive. Do we know what we expect the Rafah operation is going to look like, and how would it, I guess, overall differ from the airstrikes that we've already seen there in Rafah?
Sure. So airstrikes is definitely going to be part of what comes next. But here's what's really important to understand about Rafah. There are 1 million Gazans, civilians in Rafah. Israel wants those civilians evacuated before it goes in for a major military operation to finally defeat the Hamas military infrastructure and to try and retrieve the hostages that the IDF believes to be in Rafah. So what Israel would like to do, and what it has plans to do, and what the Wall Street Journal has reported multiple times, that there is movement in this arena, is it's building humanitarian camps and humanitarian areas in central Gaza. And there was a report in the Wall Street Journal that actually laid it out. They said there are going to be potentially 15 different camps with up to 25,000 housing units in each one. And what Israel's talking about is a phased evacuation of these people, the civilians, out of Gaza. The IDF would be watching the route to make sure that no terrorists come out, and they would be placed into these newly established humanitarian areas, which have been built and set up in coordination with Arab partners. And they would remain there or go back to their homes either in central Gaza or in northern Gaza. So we're talking about a slow and IDF goes orderly sector by sector maneuver of civilians out of Rafah before the operation begins. From what I understand, the sticking point is the timing here, because Israel believes it can move these civilians in a matter of weeks. And if you looked at the way they moved civilians out of the north and out of central Gaza, you saw what they did. There was a grid system that was block by block, where then every day they would release information on social media and drop leaflets as to which blocks needed to be evacuated that day. And they successfully managed to move this population into Rafah, and now we need to get people out. And Josh, it makes sense. You want the civilians, it's not sustainable to have 1.5 million civilians in a city that was built for 300,000 civilians. You need to get them out. They need to go back to their community where they came from. They need to start to rebuild eventually. And this needs to be done in fashion. And the U.S. can help by backing the operation, by being involved, and by supporting the Israelis in getting these people back so that they can finally finish the job in Rafah.
And that leads me to another question here, because the IDF has said that some of those hostages that are believed to be in Rafah, they say intelligence has led them to believe that that is where those hostages are. Several of them are American hostages. So why is it overall, just in your expert opinion, that the U.S. is opposing this
So unfortunately, Josh, I think it has to do with timing. I think that the U.S. must understand that people will have to leave Rafah. They must understand that it's unsustainable to have that many people on the Egypt southern border. And ultimately, the U.S. has been supportive of Israel's goal to destroy this designated terror organization. The U.S. designates Hamas as a terrorist organization. Hamas was responsible for dozens of U.S. murders on October 7th. And the U.S. says it supports the goal to destroy Hamas, and there's no way of removing its military capabilities without first going into its last bastion, into Rafah. So in my opinion, the only reason I can think where the Biden administration would oppose this operation is because they're worried about the visuals of moving this massive amount of civilians as we get close to November, unfortunately.
All right, and you for being there at the Foundation for Defense and Democracy as a friend of the show. We appreciate you always coming on to break down all of these headlines as they do develop. Is there anything else you want to add about any of this before I let you go?
No, Josh, I think we really covered it this time. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Embrace.
אנחנו מזהים סימנים מדאיגים שהחמאס למעשה לא מתכוון ללכת לשום מתווה סביבי איתנו. המשמעות של זה פעולה ברפיח ובכל רצועת עזה בזמן הקרוב ביותר.
We open our broadcast tonight commemorating Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day, and the 6 million Jews that were systematically murdered in the Holocaust. On this National Day of Mourning, we remember and honor the memories of the victims, and we say, never again. Yet this year, this phrase takes on new meaning. Tonight marks the first Holocaust Remembrance Day since October 7th, the largest massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. Some 1,200 people were slaughtered by Hamas, while hundreds were taken hostage by the terrorist group that has vowed to repeat these acts again and again and again. And among the victims, among the hostages, are Holocaust survivors forced to relive these atrocities. Tonight, our thoughts and prayers are also for the victims of October 7th and for the hostages. And as Jews around the world are still recovering from this collective trauma, we are once again forced to witness the rise and spread of anti-Semitism throughout the civilized world, reaching levels reminiscent of 1938. And so tonight, as we commemorate the victims of one of the darkest periods in human history, we must all, Jews and non-Jews alike, once again recommit to never again, because never again is now. So please join me in a moment of silence to commemorate and to honor the victims. And now, Israel continues to await a response from Hamas for a ceasefire for hostages deal. Negotiations have been ongoing over the weekend, and several Arab media reports indicate progress has been made. The latest, the the following report. Conflicting reports of optimism and pessimism for a deal emerged on Sunday as Jerusalem continues to await an official response by Hamas regarding a new hostage and ceasefire deal. A second day of talks was underway in Cairo in an attempt to reach an Egyptian and Qatari mediated agreement. Early Sunday, Palestinian officials indicated no significant progress was made as Hamas continued to demand that any deal must bring to an end of the war, a condition which Israel adamantly refuses. As the day progressed, however, positive reports began to emerge that Hamas was willing to accept a deal, following a campaign of immense pressure by the United States and Qatar. As the Washington Post reported, the United States has asked Qatar to expel the Hamas leadership should they refuse the deal. According to the latest reports, the proposed deal would see multiple phases, with the first phase seeing a release of some 33 humanitarian hostages in exchange for a ceasefire lasting several weeks. Further phases would see an additional release of hostages, including IDF soldiers, for a potentially longer-lasting ceasefire. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced on Sunday that the Israeli government unanimously decided it would shut down the Qatari-owned Al Jazeera news network in Israel, a move the Israeli government has so far avoided so as not to anger Qatar, a key mediator in the negotiations. There are still 132 hostages being held in Gaza by Hamas. Over the weekend, it was announced that 2 men believed to have been taken hostage by Hamas were murdered. The body of Hakim Miglan, who was believed to be one of the hostages, was discovered in Israel, mistakenly buried alongside another victim. His remains were identified through a complex forensic investigation. And Kibbutz Be'eri, one of the hardest hit sites on October 7th, announced that its resident, Dror O, was killed on October 7th and that Hamas is holding his body in Gaza. His 2 children, Noam and Allah, just 17 and 13 years old, were also taken hostage and released in the first hostage deal. Their mother, Yonat, was also murdered on October 7th.
Israel bonds, the heartbeat of solidarity, the powerhouse of support. When Hamas Israel war hit, Israel bonds stood tall, proving it were more than just an investment, we're a lifeline. Investing in Israel bonds isn't just a financial move, it's a declaration for resilience, strength, and a better future for Israel. Sometimes things change unexpectedly. Sometimes the way it all springs. And life never stops.
Rob, the counter-protesters have since dissipated. Dozens of pro-Israeli demonstrators came right up to Quad this afternoon, where pro-Palestinian students have been camped out all week. They said they wanted to stand up for Israel and combat what's been happening on college campuses across the country. Day 6 of the pro-Palestinian encampment at DePaul University, and tensions are running high as pro-Israeli demonstrators show up to counter-protest.
Somebody has to stand up to this. This is unconscionable. It's intolerable.
Dozens of Chicago police officers lined the sidewalk outside of the quad, standing in between both sides to prevent further escalation. Officers tell me protesters were throwing things at one another and taking physical advantage.
The students are not instigating whatsoever. They're simply peaceful protesting, and you have on the other side fully adults, non-students, chanting Islamophobic statements at us while we're simply protesting for divestment from our university. We are here to show that the Jewish people and our nation are not going anywhere.
Meanwhile, on the other side of campus, Jewish students held their own rally away from the encampment. They say to not instigate any further.
On Tuesday, we had this counter protest, and it was very heated. It took just a lot of pain. So what we're doing now is we're trying to spread love.
On campus, it's been wildly intense together. I mean, we can't even bring them home without being attacked verbally or honestly, physically.
Now, despite the tense moments earlier, we did not see anyone onto a stretcher, but safety officials did not have more information about that. Meanwhile, the university says the situation here at the quad hasn't stabilized.
About 3 hours ago, one man was arrested here near the encampment, but we're still trying to determine what exactly that was in relation to. But the pro-Palestinian group here in the quad continues to grow. University of Chicago police taking a man away in handcuffs near the U Chicago United for Palestine's encampment, but it's still unclear if this arrest was related to the demonstration, which has now been going on since Monday. The group calling for the university to divest from companies with ties to Israel.
We're protesting the fact that American tax dollars are being used to fund a foreign war that's killing mostly children and women in Palestine.
Earlier in the day, campus police forming a barrier between the pro-Palestinian protesters and counter-protesters who showed up carrying American and Israeli flags, prompting this tweet from the university just after 1 p.m. Please avoid the main quad area. Reports of physical altercations.
My life has been very hectic. I've had exams disrupted during unapproved times by their chance. We've had our own installations vandalized.
These students say they understand the concerns for the war in Gaza, but don't agree with the calls for violence from the group.
I completely denounce everything that's being said by these chants where there's calls for violence against Jewish members of the community.
After a meeting Thursday between school leaders and protesters, the university president, Paul Alibastados, says those in the encampment are violating policies and the encampment cannot continue.
We can't live by the university's intimidation attempts.
Are they going to remove your encampment?
I don't have the answer.
And what happens if they try?
What happens if they try? Hopefully our community shows up and shows out and we can keep going until our goal of divestment. Because at the end of the day, this is not about the universities, this isn't about the movements that we're seeing in the US across the country. This is about what is happening in Gaza.
Now, there were no injuries in that clash that happened earlier this afternoon. Chicago's mayor and police superintendent were asked about the encampments on the campuses, and the mayor says that while First Amendment rights need to be protected, that they will continue to assess the situation, all these demonstrations across the campuses in and around Chicago. The police superintendent says, of course, safety is their top priority. We're live tonight at University of Chicago campus. Elizabeth Matthews, Fox 32, Chicago.
Tonight's dinner is going to be great. With the bride.
Yeah, Sylvia and Scott Attention behind this afternoon. Things have seemed to calm down a bit. I'll get on the way just so you can see what's going on. So behind this line of people, you can see maybe back there in the distance, that's where the tents are. That's where the encampment is. You might see some security wearing some yellow vests. These are University of Chicago security staff members with security there. So at one point there was a police line, but things have really calmed down since this afternoon around noon, 1 o'clock. Yesterday, university leaders met with protesters. Let's hear from one student how that meeting went.
Our president couldn't even bring himself off the record to acknowledge the fact that all universities in Gaza have been bombed. He said there are different perspectives on that. I say to the president, anybody who has a different perspective on that is wrong. Just like anybody who has a different perspective about whether the Holocaust happened or not, it happened. If you don't think it happened, you're wrong. So until we can acknowledge facts and reality, we won't get anywhere in negotiations, and our encampment will persist.
Police from the University of Chicago forming a line this afternoon, blocking the counter-protesters, some carrying American flags, others carrying Israeli flags, from mingling with the pro-Palestinian group. Now, this group, U Chicago United for Palestine, has been camped out in the quad since Monday of this week. And that meeting Thursday that I mentioned was yesterday. The protesters asked UC administrators to give them a list of demands, including to divest from companies with
ties to Israel. In a statement today, school leadership said, quote, out of principle, we provide the greatest leeway possible for free expression, but went on to add the encampment cannot continue. University President Paul Albisados said the encampment has created systematic disruption of campus. The protesters are monopolizing areas of the quad at expense of members of the community, and violations of policies have increased. We also spoke to the president of a Jewish organization on campus, the Maroons for Israel. And here's what he had to say.
It's been very hectic. My life has been very hectic. I've had exams disrupted during unapproved times by their chance. We've had our own installations vandalized and stolen a number of times. In fact, we released an official statement condemning that, and how the encampment provides cover and anonymity to the people who are flouting the rules.
So tensions really escalated this afternoon. Those counter-protesters, those carrying some American flags and Israeli flags, showed up here. That's in the line of University of Chicago. Police formed that kind of blockade, blocking those two groups from mingling. We did see some representatives from Chicago Police Department out here, but we didn't see any uniformed officers out here helping, but we were told that they were kind of on the periphery just in case they were needed. As for the encampment, according to the statement from the president of the university, he said the encampment cannot continue. What exactly that means is probably what it sounds like. It sounds like, and some students tell me that they're hearing that the encampment will kind of be swept away at some point. They don't know exactly when. Perhaps that's what sparked the tensions this afternoon, but we will stay on top of this and bring you the very latest. Live University of Chicago campus, Elizabeth Matthews, Fox 32, Chicago.
It is a protest movement that's spread. It's at the University of Southern California, one of many flashpoints across the country.
Police have issued a dispersal order on the USC campus. They warn students that if they remain here, they will be arrested.
Sky News has been following, witnessing the arrests, examining the motives.
Why do you feel so passionately about being here, even though the police are
Because we know that we're on the right side of this right now.
Are you scared?
No. I think that the children are allowed their own history.
Coast to coast. People living abroad like
I've been living off because of the city immigration. We are talking about a genocide.
it is cutting deep wedges with both existing ones for both sides. So what is going on? America's top university protesting campus anger and arrests at campuses across the country. Gaza is the capital. Israel is the top.
We call for a complete divestment by Colombia from any company complicit in genocide and colonization in Palestine, and we are calling for amnesty for all of our students.
At the time of Columbia, New York City's Upper West Side, university president called in the police. She concluded that the protesters in the College with a Proud History of Protest represented a clear representation of both sides. They tried to clear the encampment. They arrested more than 100 student protesters, but it only emboldened the movement. Downtown, at New York University, more arrests. Well, it's the morning after more than 100 people were arrested here at NYU in southern Manhattan, and they put up barricades now. It's an attempt, I think, to quell.
At Jiffy Lube, we carve our cars. In fact, we're kind of obsessed. It's why we've been taking car business with quick quality.
As we continue to follow the very latest at the Israel-Hamas war this morning, a Hamas delegation was in Cairo Saturday as Egyptian state media reported noticeable progress in ceasefire talks for Gaza. But Israel hasn't sent a delegation, and a senior Israeli official downplayed prospects for a full end to the war while emphasizing the commitment to invading Rafah. Pressure has mounted to reach a deal halting the nearly 7-month-long war. A top UN official saying there's now a full-blown famine in northern Gaza, while the U.S. has repeatedly warned close ally Israel about its planned offensive into Rafah. That's the southernmost city on the border with Egypt, where more than 1 million Palestinians are currently sheltering. Joining us live this morning to share the latest on this ongoing conflict is senior lecturer in Homeland Security and Criminal Justice at the University of New Haven, Mr. Ken Frater. Mr. Ken, good morning. Always a pleasure speaking with you.
Good morning, Janae. Glad to be with you again.
So it seems that there have been some movements when we are discussing ceasefire talks. We're hearing from that those in Cairo, Egypt, that the talks are coming from the
On the campus of the University of Southern California Sunday morning, the LAPD moved in to clear out protesters and remove a campus encampment.
We saw that the LAPD and DPS in dozens came in at around 4 a.m., gave a dispersal warning, at which most of them peacefully left. Some of them were chanting, but again, peacefully left.
Demonstrations continued across the country, from UT Austin in Texas to DePaul University in Chicago, where police responded after tense moments between pro-Palestine and pro-Israeli protesters. The campus demonstrations have led to divisions inside the Democratic Party, just as President Joe Biden is in the middle of a tough re-election campaign. California Representative Ro.
Coming up on Jerusalem Dateline, Israel poised to enter Rafah, but still no hostage deal. What or who is behind the anti-Israel protests on dozens of American college campuses? Plus, just before Israel commemorates Holocaust Remembrance Day, a visit to the World War II Treblinka death camp and the lessons it offers for today. And a sobering call to prayer to prevent a planned radical takeover of the Western world. All this and more coming up on this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. As Israeli forces prepare for an assault on the last Hamas stronghold in Rafah, where the remaining hostages may be held captive, Prime Minister Netanyahu says any deal to end the fighting without defeating Hamas is a non-starter. Take a look. Israeli troops and tanks continue to gather near Rafah for an expected military operation. Rafah is where many believe the leaders of Hamas are hiding, as well as the remaining battalions of Hamas fighters. It's also thought to be the location of the last remaining hostages. While Hamas seems to reject the latest ceasefire offer, it apparently wants negotiations to continue, a tactic that could be intended to forestall the IDF's invasion. But Israel's prime minister says they will move ahead with their plans for an assault.
We will do what is necessary in order to win and overcome our enemies.
including in Rafah, in order to secure our future.
Two, top Hamas demands that Israel ends the war against the terrorist group and that all Israeli troops leave the Gaza Strip. Netanyahu told visiting U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken a deal to end the war without defeating Hamas is a non-starter. Meanwhile, along the northern border, negotiations to broker a peace between Hezbollah and Israel appear stalled. In light of that, Israel's military chief of staff, Herzi Halevi, told commanders Israel is getting ready for an attack on Hezbollah. Samir Jijia, a prominent Christian politician in Lebanon, says Hezbollah constant attacks on Israel since October 7th, hurting Lebanon more than Israel. Super attack shellings and bombings have killed 22
দেখে
Israelis.
আসবো মানুষ
এক কয়জন
না এখন নাই আসে একটু পর পর আসে আমার 307 জন না 327 না 7
All its militia forces away from the Lebanese border with Israel.
7 ঘন্টা
Despite some international opposition to Israel,
বন্ধ করে দিমু হ্যাঁ
না চলো
চলতে থাক কিছু পর পর আসে
Sunday. As part of that, Bishop Robert Stern's group, Eagle's Wings, is bringing Israeli
কিন্তু
survivors
এইভাবে দুইটা রাখি কারণ আমরা নামি দামি হলে আমাদের ওরকম অনেকে আসে
So many Christians
এখন তো
are
আমরা
going to
কিছু
have not only the opportunity, but the responsibility this coming Sunday, Solidarity Sunday, to hear from these survivors firsthand.
Stern says America faces the same battle as Israel.
The battle that Israel is facing is a battle for modern Western democratic values, and all of us have to wake up and understand they're on the front lines, but this battle affects all of us.
For more information on this event, go to solidaritySundayEvent.org. Well, anti-Israel protests have expanded to occupy U.S. campuses coast to coast. Given the overall coordination, officials are questioning whether these demonstrations go beyond a spontaneous student movement to a more well-funded outside operation. Take a look.
এই যে এখন একজন আইছে আমি গ্যাপ দিয়ে দিয়ে একজন একজন আসে যখন যে লাইনে থাকে তখন সে দেয় যে লাইন থেকে কিছু হবে
Jack Lansing describes what it's becoming like to
তুমি
be
এই
a Jewish student
ব্যক্তিগত
at the University of Michigan.
There's a lot of chants from the river to the sea, Montgomery, Antiphon, Antifada, Bullhorns, going through the School of Business, going through the undergraduate library, making it very challenging for students to do work and focus. I sometimes am worried about wearing my Star of David outside of my shirt.
Lansing is not alone.
What they're doing is they're very clearly signaling to Jewish students that they're not welcome on campus, that they're not being protected by the university leaders in the way that they would protect any other group on campus.
Dr. Jay Green, educational policy expert at the Heritage Foundation, tells CBN News he sees clues pointing to a more professional, organized effort behind these protests.
We only get little hints of it, and the hints are that the funders include the Soros Open Society Foundation, the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, and there are also some links to foreign organizations as well. We've seen that people linked to foreign organizations have been involved in trainings, and that there are shared talking points and documents as well. So it's pretty clear that this is an externally funded and organized effort.
Green also finds familiar strategies recurring across the various campuses.
Among the common signs are that they're determined to set up camps so that it's more difficult to remove them, but they never have to leave them. That's one sign. The second sign is that they're setting up in the middle of public spaces within the university so that it is difficult for people to get to and from work, to and from classes, without having to go through these protests. So they're effectively shutting down the normal operations of these universities. And third, they're on locations that are often where commencements will be held in a few weeks.
That's also intentional, as those upcoming ceremonies put a lot of pressure on the universities. Greens also observed a strong Middle East connection.
We've seen people from the Middle East come and provide trainings to them. And the biggest connection that we might identify between the Middle East and its protests is the very large number of Middle East students who are involved in it.
He also adds that element presents a dilemma to many of the schools.
We've also seen that this is part of why universities have been reluctant to crack down on the protests, have the students arrested or suspended the students. It's for fear of jeopardizing their foreign visas. And so if they were to be suspended from school or arrested, they might have to be deported. And the universities are very wary of doing that, in part because these foreign student revenue streams are an important source of revenue for them. There are very large donors overseas that they're wishing to keep happy.
While polls show most Americans don't support the demonstrations, protesters are getting positive reinforcement elsewhere. Iran's foreign ministry condemns reports of protesters being arrested, although the Islamic regime has traditionally arrested, imprisoned, and even killed student protesters within its borders.
The Islamic Republic of Iran's foreign ministry in no way accepts violent and militarized response to students and their demands in Americans' universities. It rejects this approach and deems it concerning. It's necessary that the international community takes notice of this issue.
On social media, Hamas has praised the protest while warning the Biden administration. Hamas political bureau member Izzat El-Riz posted on Telegram, "Today's students are the leaders of tomorrow. The consequence of today's repression will be a heavy electoral price the Biden administration will pay sooner or later." As this movement is expected to continue, Green expects protests will likely disrupt commencement ceremonies and believes many protesters will expand beyond college campuses to gather in Chicago at the August Democratic National Convention. Coming up, a look at the Treblinka death camp ahead of Holocaust Remembrance Day.
All day I work, daydreaming of a better place, where the everyday everything takes care of itself, and all my questions have answers. So I can spend my time playing, dreaming, making, and that's the most important work of all.
Israel is commemorating Holocaust Remembrance Day on May 6th against the backdrop of the October 7th massacre, the worst attack on the Jewish people since World War II. Shortly before the current war, CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl traveled to the Treblinka death camp with Christian leaders.
During World War II, this part of Lublin, Poland became known as the German SS city due to the black uniformed Nazis present here.
And it was from here that they planned the murder of over 2 million Polish Jews. These were the desperate murderers, people who were bureaucrats, secretaries, planners, junior officers. They arranged for this murder to take place, and they're equally, if not more, responsible than those who actually did the physical killing.
From here, SS squads would organize train timetables, dispatch killing units to Jewish towns, or round up Jews to eventually be sent to one of Poland's death camps.
Poland became the place of death because this is where most Jews in Europe live. They live in Poland, Central Europe, Eastern Europe. So this was simply a matter of convenience and logistics.
From villages like these, trains would transport tens of thousands of Jews through these beautiful woods to their ultimate destination of death. The Treblinka death camp was in operation for just 15 months, but during that time, the Nazis murdered 925,000 Jews, making it one of the worst massacre sites in the world. I've known about the word Treblinka for many, many years, but just being aware of this history isn't enough. And to be here now is to be really impacted. It's probably the hardest thing that I need to do is to acknowledge how evil and wicked men can become. Just the impact of how people who are just common, ordinary people can be so cold for so long, and it's just shocking and horrifying. And I think about the day that we live in and how parallel this could be to our time today. You can hear the numbers, but when you begin to understand the individual, it impacts you in a whole different way. And you realize
again, what was behind this evil, this destruction, the deception, and sadly, very disconcertingly, I believe we see some of those same things in the world today.
That's why Teresa Gardner points to the example of Janusz Korczak, a Polish Jewish pediatrician who refused sanctuary to instead go to Treblinka with children he took care of from the Warsaw Orphanage.
I pray that I would be faithful to the Lord to the end and be faithful in the responsibilities that He's given to me.
Todd and Rachel McDowell say walking where it all happened deepened their perspective.
I have met many Holocaust survivors and have heard their stories, but to actually step onto the ground where it took place, and I think it took me off guard. I didn't expect to feel such peace there amongst such horrible, horrific tragedy that happened in that place. So it was such a mixture.
It broke my heart. I could feel the Father's heart broken, and I realized why I came on this trip is I've known prophetic scriptures, I've known history, I've learned, I've seen some films on the Holocaust, but my dozens and dozens of times to Israel has been so focused on the flowers that came out of the ashes of Holocaust. And I realized that I'm missing a half of the story, the Jewish story, because I've never seen the ashes.
McDowell says in today's culture, unfortunately, it can be easier to be talked out of something you think you know.
Touching the wall today of the ghetto, walking on the tracks, seeing the evidence that was found, and being there, you know that you know because you've experienced it.
Brad Young of the Hebrew Heritage Bible Society came away astonished by how fast and efficiently the Nazis implemented their final solution.
When you go to a place like Treblinka and you understand how that this result of hatred of the Jewish people can result in mass murder. Sometimes it can be abusive words that are said to give up until we see the implementation of the final solution.
Young says, even in the face of growing anti-Semitism, Christians should do as it says in the book of Isaiah and comfort God's people. Julie Saul, CBN News, Lublin and Treblinka, Poland.
Up next, a leading prophet warns an Islamic takeover of the Western world could be around the corner. A radical takeover of the Western world may be closer than anyone ever thought. That's what one of the world's leading prophets is warning could be around the corner. Stephen Jacobs from Journalists International delivered his sobering prophetic prayer. Take a look.
The word of the Lord for the nations. Be not foolish, but the people who are protesting and calling for a Palestinian state are just protesting on behalf of Palestine. Whether they understand or not, there is an insurrection forming. It is like under the communist takeover in Russia to the downfall of the Tsars. Only this time, there are enemies in the nations of Canada, the U.S., and the nations of the world. Among the other nations, Europe is especially a target. This is a plan takeover, not only ideologically and nationally. It is infiltrated militaries and is gaining strength. At the moment they are planning things, there are proxies on the streets and protests. This is not only about bringing the Palestinian state to the Middle East, but an Islamic state to North America and other nations. They are subversing and even using misguided students, but the movement is on a much bigger and more pervasive scale. This Palestinian Islamic state is also part of a larger alliance that is around us ahead with the caliphate made of Iraq, Syria, and Yemen. Hezbollah will be part of this axis of evil, and eventually Afghanistan, Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, and other Middle Eastern nations will not be able to remain neutral, because you will one day be in the crosshairs of this caliphate or Middle Eastern takeover, and your independence will be threatened. Efforts to choose the right side do not side against Israel in the battle. Russia is watching like a devouring sweep down on Europe to Ukraine. China is being restrained to prepare against gobbling up Taiwan, Korea, and Asia. Even if these alliances work, as an axis of evil, Islam will eventually break these alliances and take over. The insurrectionists are set in Paris, London, and other European cities, as well as in Australia and Latin America. However, the hand of God is willing. Cover those nations who are on their face in repentance and holiness. Judgment has begun at the house of God and will increase. There may appear to be a severity in the cleansing of the church. There will be no wiggle room for those who think that no one sees. This judgment is to clean the house of God in order to give the church the authority and prayer to stop what is coming. For the covers are coming off hidden sin. Those in the prayer movement are going first, because some of them stood in my face, says the Lord, and brought uncleanness and mixture before the throne. This will not be tolerated. It is time to confess before you're exposed and cry out to me to help as you navigate through the consequences. For those who truly love me, Lord, and hide in your sin, I will help you. Even though it will be difficult, you can choose to go the hard way on the way of holiness and repentance. For I am jealous for my revival and the raising up of reformers for your nations. The hearts of many of those who are in this new need of God must not be crushed and darkened by the sin of the church. I am the refiner's fire, says the Lord. I am holiness personified. Cry out to me, holy, and wash me. Holiness belongs to me, says the Lord. I will not tolerate mixture, even though it seems like I haven't seen the sin of some in the church. I know all things, and I'm going to reveal a side of me that many have not seen in their lifetime. If the church repents, I will relent. I will protect your nations. If the church repents, I will deal with the coming world consequences and give new wisdom to the leaders of your nations. For foolish governance is a consequence of sin. If the people will let those who snub their noses at biblical principles, their leaders will be like blind people and cause grave mistakes to be made. Turn to me, church, says the Lord. I desire mercy and not judgment. Turn to me with fasting and prayer and turn from your wicked ways. I am waiting, says the Lord, to hear your promise.
Living in a neighborhood where those around you live to see you die.
Imagine being surrounded by neighbors who live to see you die. That's the cold reality of everyone living in Israel. Felix Johannes and the former IDF officer Amir Safadi reports on this and other developments to the international audience. Came by our studio recently to talk about Israel's current state and how it lines up with biblical prophecy. Amir Safadi, great to be with you, the founder and president of Behold Israel. Your followers around the world. How would you describe where Israel right now, about 5 months after October 7th?
Yes. Well, first of all, October 7th is another manifestation of the attempt of the enemy to cut us off from being a nation, that the name of Israel will be remembered no more. This is the spirit of Psalm 83, but I do believe with all of my heart that we're facing right now in the physical realm a war that will be much greater than this one. This one is more a war of Israel against the proxies of Iran, nothing more than that. We don't really fight the Lebanese army or the Syrian army or the Egyptian army or the Jordanian army. We're not fighting them. We're fighting proxies, terrorist organizations, the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, and the other resistance organizations in Syria. So we're now not exactly engaging in war against countries, you would say. But the Bible says that two things are going to happen. Damascus is going to fall, and it will be completely uninhabitable. It will be the 17th exactly, which I believe will lead into the famous Ezekiel account of chapter 38 and 39, where Israel then, being strong, safe, and secure and prosperous, is going to be attacked from the north by a coalition that most likely is led by Russia, and Turkey and Iran will join them. So we're seeing that coalition formed already. We're seeing everything is moving. We're seeing the, I would say, decline of an empire. When we look at America right now, And Ezekiel is all about Israel being attacked when God is coming to help. And the only help is going to be from the Lord, which he is going to do that in a supernatural way. It's not going to be a DIDF or bombs or F-16s. No, it's going to be something much greater than that.
So you see what's happening not just as a prelude to something far greater.
Yes, yeah. We went through a mini Holocaust. It is terrible. We're still under a lot of attacks. It seems like the real war hasn't even started yet with Hezbollah. But these are not things that are going to destroy the land of Israel. If anything, Israel should fear countries like Russia coming against us, countries like Turkey coming against us, countries like Iran are saying not just proxies. And when that comes, it's going to be a different ballgame. And so, whatever it is that we are going through right now, this is just the appetizer. And again, all of that, I'm not afraid. I believe that God, just as he's going to get us through this time, I believe that God has revealed to his prophet that it's going to be an amazing, decisive victory, but it's going to be a godly one. It's going to be one that will be won supernaturally.
So if these days are coming down, very challenging, very difficult here in Israel and around the world. It's more desperate days coming. How do we prepare for this?
Well, first of all, we have to know the Bible. First of all, if we don't understand what God did, is doing, and will be doing according to what is said in the Bible, we will be faint-hearted, we will lose heart, we will be very, very fearful and with anxiety. And that will radiate to people around us that our faith is not exactly that strong. I believe with all of my heart that the people of God, more than any other time before, should rise up right now with the not just knowledge, but the complete conviction that God, once again, just as he did before, is going to intervene, and we're going to see a great victory. But again, the question is, who's going to take the credit for it? Who's going to take the glory for it? And I just pray and hope that we will not do the mistake that we did in 1967, and that we will be humble enough to understand that it will be hard, just as 1973 was, but God can take us through.
These are the days that Jesus talked about where you see these things work out for your redemption.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We see different things happening around the world. We're seeing the growing anti-Semitism, but we're also seeing the preparation in Israel for a temple. We're seeing the preparation of the enemy to come with a coalition against us. We're seeing a massive exodus of Jewish people from hedonism and secularism back to the arms of Judaism. So you have to come back to him. So we're watching amazing things happening all around us. And as I always say, and I learned it from a good friend of mine, things are not falling apart, they're falling in the right place.
Well, those are two powerful prophetic words urging us to pray, seek the Lord, and cry out for his mercy. As it says in 2 Chronicles 7:14, if my people who are called by my name humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and heal their land. Well, that's all for this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Thanks for joining us. Remember, you can follow us on social media and you can access CBN content through our CBN News.
Humanitarian crisis unfolding in Gaza. Israel shutting down the Karm Shalom crossing after they say Hamas fired rockets towards the border. Hamas says they targeted IDF headquarters. The closure a significant setback. In an exclusive interview on Meet the Press this morning, the head of the World Food Program saying parts of the enclave already gripped by famine.
What I can explain to you is that there is famine, full-blown famine in the north, and it's moving its way south.
This as the latest round of negotiations on the ceasefire ended today. Hamas calling for an end to the war, a complete withdrawal of IDF troops, and for people to be able to return to their communities.
The Hamas position.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu this morning
doubling down, saying ending the war in Gaza would keep Hamas in power. And tonight, a source with knowledge of the matter told NBC News CIA Director William Burns is in Doha and will travel to Israel this week. Meanwhile, the Israeli cabinet voting to shut down broadcast company Al Jazeera from operating in the country. Al Jazeera releasing a statement saying in part, "We will make sure that we report both sides despite the fact that we have lost the coverage from inside Israel." Megan Fitzgerald, NBC News.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
In Rafah, the Al-Sher family salvages a few pillows and clothes from a home reduced to rubble by an Israeli strike. Until now, Israel has held off on a full-scale offensive in the city, but Gazans here say the idea they're safe is false.
They're saying that Rafah is safe, but that's a lie. They're lying to people. Where is the safety? Where is it? Look, that's the safety that we witness in Rafah. This is Rafah.
But at the end of day 2 of another round of truce talks hoping for ceasefire is thin on the ground. Hamas said it was serious about a hostage prisoner swap in return for a comprehensive ceasefire and Israel withdrawing from Gaza. Today, Benjamin Netanyahu said he was prepared to pause the fighting, but not prepared to end the war and leave Hamas in power.
We're not willing to accept a situation in which Hamas's battalions leave the tunnels, re-establish control over the Gaza Strip, rebuild their military industries, and go back to threatening the citizens of Israel in the communities near Gaza, the cities of the south, and throughout the country. In such a case, the next October the 7th would only be a matter of time.
Each side accuses the other of scuppering the talks. Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said if Hamas isn't serious about a truce, the Israeli military will go into Rafah in the very near future. Today, Hamas fired on the Israeli army at a border crossing near Rafah. Reports said there were 10 casualties. Israel's now closed the crossing, meaning 8 trucks can't get through. And in the north of Gaza, which saw the earliest fighting, they're experiencing a full-blown famine, the head of the World Food Programme has said. Israel rejects this, pointing to increased humanitarian efforts. But in Gaza City, going to look for bread for his family, Abu Khalil says the food brought in isn't enough.
When aid trucks arrive, we get little of it. We need more aid. But the main thing we want is for the war to stop.
Today, the information war took a new turn.
The Israeli government has ordered the closure of Al Jazeera operations.
Al Jazeera, which is funded by the Qatari government, has been critical of Israel's actions in Gaza, where it has local reporters. Now it's been banned from broadcasting from Israel for the duration of the war. The Minister for Communication calling Al Jazeera an incitement channel, a mouthpiece for Hamas, he said, accusing it of threatening national security. Shortly afterwards, an Israeli official confirmed police had raided a Jerusalem hotel room used by an Al Jazeera news team and taken away equipment. The channel has rejected the accusation it harms Israel's security as a dangerous and ridiculous lie. It says the Israeli ban violates the basic right to access to information.
Continued in Gaza on Sunday. Video shows the rubble following what Palestinians said was an Israeli airstrike in the city of Rafah in the Gaza Strip. 6 people were killed and several others were wounded. The strike came hours after Hamas claimed responsibility for an attack on a commercial crossing between Israel and Gaza, resulting in Israeli casualties. The latest negotiations on a proposed hostage deal and a ceasefire in Gaza ended on Sunday without an immediate breakthrough. Hamas reiterated its demand for an end to the war in exchange for the freeing of hostages, and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu finally ruled that out, stating, The state of Israel cannot accept that. The two sides blamed each other for the impasse, and the Hamas delegation said it would leave Cairo truce talks on Sunday night to consult with its leadership. We identified alarming signs that Hamas actually does not intend to go to any agreement with us. This means we will start military actions in Rafah and the entire Gaza Strip in the very near future. Hamas, meanwhile, blamed Israel for the deadlock, accusing Netanyahu of sabotaging efforts made through the mediators. Egyptian state media reported that the Hamas delegation would return to the Egyptian capital for talks on Tuesday. But the deadlock in Cairo continues to turn up the heat on Netanyahu. Thousands of Israelis protested on Saturday, demanding the prime minister accept a ceasefire agreement with Hamas that would see the remaining hostages brought home. On Sunday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet also decided to shut down Al Jazeera's operations in Israel for as long as the war in Gaza continues, on the grounds the Qatari television network threatens national security. Al Jazeera reporters have harmed Israel's security and incited against Israeli soldiers. It is time to remove the mouthpiece of Hamas from our country. The network is funded by the Qatari government and has been critical of Israel's military operations in Gaza, from where it has reported around the clock throughout the war.
This is very dangerous decision against Al Jazeera and against the international media at home, because at least it's clear that they want to prevent from any other to know what is happening in this war in Gaza and Israel in the West Bank.
The measures include closing Al Jazeera's offices in Israel, confiscating broadcast equipment, cutting off the channel from cable and satellite companies, and blocking its websites. For City News, I'm Brandon Rowe.
Video taken by Reuters shows the rubble following what Palestinians said was an Israeli airstrike recently in the Gaza Strip. And it comes in what seems to be dwindling prospect for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin
Well, cleared out, the protest encampment at USC is now gone. NBC4, the only station to bring you live coverage as officers went in this morning and cleared out the encampment. But now, the school is back to focusing on graduation ceremonies happening this week. NBC4's Anastasia almost joins us live from outside USC with an update on those plans, as well as the career effort. Anastasia.
Jonathan and Kathy, I can tell you that since law enforcement dismantled the encampment early this morning, we've seen the white tents for commencement ceremonies starting to pop up on campus behind me. And several students that I've talked to heading onto campus, they have mixed emotions about things that are going on right now. As students head onto campus to take the popular Red Sash photos, they're excited to celebrate the accomplishments of graduating such a prestigious institution. But some also say it's sad that the university removed fellow students protesting in an encampment early Thursday morning. Just after 4:30 Sunday morning, the USC, this morning that is, the USC Department of Public Safety, assisted by LAPD and riot gear, made their way through the encampment on Alumni Park with just a few protesters chanting outside. No one was arrested, and it was a stark contrast to UCLA's encampment breach just days prior when 210 people were arrested. Here at USC, LAPD officers gave warnings to leave around 4:10 a.m. and we were there live on air as a couple dozen protesters immediately left the encampment with their items. Then a line of LAPD using their bodies walking forward pushed protesters that were chanting outside to the nearest campus entrance and locked the gate. They then entered the camp to find no one left inside and began removing tents and other items. Now this video from News Chopper 4 this afternoon, you can see Alumni Park is cleared and back to normal. Just some dead grass patches there where the tents once sat. But graduating students tell me they are still confused about commencement ceremonies. They can get 6 to 8 tickets to the new family celebration at the Coliseum Thursday, but they're only allowed 4 tickets for school ceremonies on campus, and some say they haven't received visitor passes for their family to get through the gates.
Being limited to like 6 or 8 tickets is personally not going to work for me at all.
The tickets to come on campus are supposed to be included whenever you get your commencement tickets, but I haven't gotten any tickets on that website yet. They haven't been uploaded to my account. There are other people that the same thing is happening to. If my family has tickets for the actual graduation, but they can't even come on campus, then what's the point? Graduation time is changing, already having pre-set dinners and plans with everyone, so organizing has been a little bit hard to figure out.
Now, in a statement today, President Kara Holt, she said that this was peaceful. Campus is now opening. Students are taking their finals this week, and September commencement is in full swing. We've reached out to the university to get some answers to those students' questions about getting their families on campus this week. We're still waiting to hear back. Reporting live here from USC in South LA, Anastasia Olmos, NBC4 News. Thanks.
It's love at first sight with Haagen-Dazs. White chocolate raspberry bar. That's Dazs.
Breaking news right now at USC. See the video there, according to student journalist with Annenberg Media, the campus currently shut down, and police are clearing out a pro-Palestinian encampment.
They are also reporting there are more than 100 officers in riot gear surrounding the encampment. A message went out to all students saying, if you are in the center of campus, please leave or you could be arrested. Yesterday, the school issued a warning and that the protesters' encampment violates school policy and must come down.
This has now been developing for weeks. Joining us now live is Taylor Contarino, a student reporter on campus this morning. Taylor, good morning. Thanks for checking in with us. First of all, how are you doing? What are you seeing? Is it a tense situation there for you?
Hi, well, thanks for having me first off. Good morning. It has been a really tense situation, of course. I mean, it's just crazy because there's been so many officers, and quite honestly, there's not as many protesters as there once was, not as many demonstrators. It's a bit unfortunate. There's probably hundreds of officers, but most of the protesters are gone now. I'll put my camera so that you can see what's going on. But yeah, the encampment is pretty much gone at this point. So I'm gonna put my camera so you can see. There's officers that are slowly starting to exit the campus. They're kind of mobilizing and getting in order. A couple moments ago, it was a lot louder than it is now. But now everything, the encampment is basically broken down at this point. About an hour to an hour and a half ago is when everything started. And obviously then there was a lot going on, but at this point everything is pretty much broken down, and all the protesters have been pushed to the front side of campus, kind of up towards the USC village. So most of the protesters are gone in the encampment, all the signs have been broken down, all of the just everything that they have is pretty much been broken down. All the signs you see right now, they're gone now. The tents, they're gone. And some of the protesters, they were pushed to Truesdale.
And this is a much different scene than what we've been seeing over the past few days. Now that the encampment is a bit smaller. This morning, have you seen any protesters that are lingering that have been combative? Have you seen any violent encounters between protesters and those officers?
No, there has not really. That LAPD, they were being a little aggressive, but the protesters left peacefully. Everybody pretty much exited. They, were being pushed out, and they did as they were told. There wasn't really much resistance. Everybody, they got pushed out of campus, and they're gone now. I wouldn't really say I don't believe we saw any arrests, at least not yet. Everyone is gone at this point, and it's kind of eerily quiet. It's quieter than it's been in a long time. We're going on day 12 of the encampment, but at this point, it's pretty much nothing remaining.
Yeah, there certainly is an ebb and flow with the activity. You'll speak to responding to UCLA in the similar situation there. You go through moments where it's high tense, then everything kind of calms down. so that's good to hear. I was going to ask about the arrest situation because the Department of Public Safety there at USC on your campus was warning that people could be detained this morning if they did not leave campus. Before we let you go, I do want to clarify for our viewers and remind everyone that this has been a closed campus. How has that been for you? And are you looking forward to things returning to normalcy?
I mean, I don't know. I don't feel like it's gonna feel like a return to normalcy after what I just saw. I mean, I saw people I know. I saw my own classmates being, pushed out of the campus that we called home by the LAPD, and it was not an enjoyable scene. I mean, I don't think it was enjoyable for anybody at that point. So I don't know if things are really gonna return to normal after this. I don't think things are gonna really feel normal, especially after what we just went. I mean, I will say being, a school reporter working for Edinburgh Media, I'm really proud of everything we've been doing in the absence of other media outlets. Since other media outlets were not allowed in, us and Daily Trojan were kind of holding everything down. Because I mean, I haven't gone to sleep yet today, and none of my other reporters have either. I mean, we've been here since we woke up this morning, and it's now 5:36, so I mean, it's the next day. I have some videos since yesterday morning, I guess technically. So I mean, yeah, having other outlets allowed into campus, that's a good thing. But what just happened does not feel good.
Wow, it has been a long night for you, Taylor. We appreciate your hard work. Last question for you. I mean, with everything going on, how are students who are not involved in the protests reacting to this, especially now that they've been dealing with finals going on campus?
The thing is, this is obviously such a nuanced topic that people feel differently. I mean, there were countless protesters. There were people walking by last night saying certain things that maybe were not necessarily supporters to the protesters themselves. I mean, there's been a lot of tension, not gonna lie. I mean, even as you can see in the video, it's been a tense situation. I don't know if you can hear it, but that's been a tense situation.
On the campus of USC, this has 4 days out from state officers not doing a breakdown by the we are on the ground. We want to get right to Julia getting involved with news talk report. We are very nervous. We understand the LAPD has now entered the campus to many vacancies. That's what we are crystallized. You can see here a row of LAPD officers standing around here. Still in a lot of hard here at USC. Now they're standing right here. Elections between the LAPD officers and demonstrators on this campus. Yes, now, again, no clashes. We're not seeing any signs of escalating tensions. Good news this morning, we are seeing these students, these demonstrators camped out here, actually complying with the LAPD and USC demands to clear out this encampment. And again, as we have been reporting, this is because USC says they need this space for commencement activities. So as I zoom in here, I know it is dark this morning, but you can see where there are some black plastic tarp-like materials down on the ground. When we were live over here 11 p.m. just a couple hours ago, all of those areas were covered by tents. Any early risers who were tuned in at 11 p.m., you recall seeing dozens, at least 2-3 dozen tents here. And we saw students early this morning packing up those tents, carrying them out, and LAPD officers standing by quietly. A couple of them appeared to be directing the 12 students at the local market on campus. But yet, no sign of any rising tensions here. Early, and it is likely that from the overnight drizzle
many of the students at Alumni College have some idea that law enforcement was going to enter the campus and ask for them to leave. So we also have the ground shot. We have the aerial shot like the new shot before, and the ground shot as well. As you see, LAPD now enter USC and asking those in that encampment to leave. People who do not leave could be arrested. That from USC this morning on social media. We want to go to the ground too because we understand we have NBC4's Lauren Coronado near one of the entrances near there, and she was there just as they started to try to disperse the crowd. Of course, to get onto the campus, you have to be a student, have some identification. So we are, I believe Lauren is outside of the campus there. Let's go ahead. Lauren, you were able to get inside. We hear some chanting. We have an aerial shot as well. Tell us what's happening on the ground.
Michelle, bear with us. We just got on campus right now. We were walked in by USC Media Relations. They tell me that law enforcement just arrived and that they told the folks at the encampment they have 15 minutes to voluntarily leave. On our way out, I did see a few folks with sleeping bags and blankets, what appeared to be sleeping bags, blankets, walking away from the encampment area. That was about 5 minutes ago. This is developing right now, moment by moment. I'm also told that if they don't leave, yes, those arrests can happen. I talked with a USC reporter, a student reporter, and she tells me that there is a plan in place from her understanding, from her reporting, in which there are people at the encampment who have decided if it happens, if it has to happen, they will be arrested. They are willing to be arrested, while there are other students and people here at the encampment who will not. So she says, from her understanding, there is a plan in place for these protesters. The encampment now has been here a little more than a week. You can hear the chanting behind me. You can see just how many law enforcement personnel are on the ground. It includes the Department of Public Safety. It also includes the LAPD. We saw multiple fire engines arrive on campus as well as ambulances. We saw what happened at UCLA. It's really a multi-agency approach, and they have all hands on deck right now responding. Michelle.
Yeah, this is definitely much smaller than what we saw at UCLA. According to the timeline, it was just after 4 in the morning that USC sent out an alert saying that the DPS, the Department of Public Safety that oversees the campus there, campus police, that they were clearing out the encampment, and then just after 4 in the morning, we also saw LAPD enter as well. We have everyone on the air and the ground and a full loaded staff here checking in with all of our sources to see what's going to happen. But as you said, Lauren, this has been gearing up for days, actually almost close to 2 weeks now. Many of the students were outraged with the cancellation of the valedictorian speech and then the cancellation of the big commencement ceremony there. And so how many police officers do you see from your vantage point? And is it mainly DPS, LAPD? You said several agencies are out there.
Yeah, Michelle, from our vantage point, it looks like it's mainly DPS. It's hard to tell just because of how dark it is right now, so you have to be up close to be able to read their badges, but they are in tactical gear. In fact, I want to show you Mark Melger, my photographer. If we turn around this way, you can see just how many are on standby right now. Again, from my understanding, they're waiting it out. USC Media Relations tells me that law enforcement put out a warning saying you guys have 15 minutes to leave the encampment voluntarily. And I'm not sure how long it's been. I asked her what has it been, about 5 minutes, a little bit more. She said maybe about 5 minutes or so. So that's what she's told me right now. If we continue to circle around, I want to show you that law enforcement is surrounding part of the encampment. So just beyond these trees and this line of law enforcement, that's where you see the encampment. You might be able to see some plywood walls, it looks like, makeshift walls. There's definitely posters and signage of where that pro-Palestinian encampment is. And if we continue to circle around, you'll start to see more of the protesters who are chanting. You can hear them with drums. And we're starting to see some movement. It looks like more people are voluntarily leaving campus. For now, you see law enforcement surrounding the area. They're just standing by in their tactical gear. I tried to
talking with law enforcement shortly a moment ago, but they're not sharing too much at this time. We understand that there is a media area where they're asking reporters to gather in that area. We might be able to get more information, but right now we want to be right here in front of the encampment to show our viewers exactly what's unfolding moment by moment, Michelle.
Absolutely, and USC had just shut down its campus as recently as yesterday, started locking down buildings. We have commencement ceremonies coming up this weekend and in the coming days. So the university really wanted the encampments removed. Families are in town, and then just a few days ago, week and a half ago, April 24th, 93 protesters were arrested there on the grounds of USC. So this is almost like a round two, and we're trying to establish a shot in the air to show our viewers as well what's happening with LAPD there. But it is dark. It is early, Lauren, and you were able to get in. This was after Days Media wasn't able to get into the private property, but now you are able to get in, and these are the sites you're seeing. And you're seeing, you said many people, demonstrators